Hi everyone, let's talk about the design phase of SDLC. This is where you craft your blueprint of the software. This is where you start shaping up your requirements. So let's see what we have in store. We already covered planning, requirement analysis, and now we are up to design in our SDLC process. So you started with just a seed, a vision, then you started documenting requirements, and now once you're having your requirements, you need to start designing it. The design has different aspects to it, which we will talk about in this video. So let's talk about the design phase. It involves creating high-level and detailed design documents that can then be used by your development team. This also sets the stage for the development because now there is a design that the developers can follow. Basically, when you're trying to create your software, you are working on a rough sketch that you have created for yourself. What are the key activities in design phase? Well, the most important is architecture design. You basically design the entire system on how you're going to use it, how the overall system looks like, what's it going to take to make that system. Then comes your database design. Because any system that you design needs to store data or handle data in a different way. So you need to definitely have a structure to how you're going to manage your data. After that comes your interface design, basically designing your user interfaces and interactions that can be possible in your software. And then comes your component design. The component design is nothing but specifying individual software components and their interactions. So let's look at what are the different roles and responsibilities of people in a team during the design phase. Well, the most important for any project that is, a large-scale project, you will usually have a project manager. So project manager is someone that oversees the overall design process and ensures that the goals are aligned with what it was discussed during your planning and requirement phase, so that there is some kind of a correlation between what you're designing versus what you intended to design. The next comes in the architect. Architect is someone who designs the system architecture and ensures that it meets the requirement at a technical level. Then we also talked about different components and their interactions. So UI UX designers play a very important role where they design the user interfaces, focusing on usability and interactions from a user's perspective. Then comes the most important aspect, which is developers. They do all the research, which tech stack to use, what are the pros and the cons of using X versus Y, and of course any challenges that they already foresee in implementing a solution or a design. So that's where developers can also help you in that aspect. Similarly, when the developers are doing their job, QA is also researching on the requirements and the design documents that is available to them, trying to make sure that they are testable and the quality standards can be maintained for it. A quick shout out to myself. I have written a book or a handbook on Scrum Master for PSM1 certification. It drives you through fitness application that you can follow along so that you can understand the different principles of Scrum and Agile. This book is available for free and the link is in the description section. Let's talk about transforming requirements into design. The most important aspect of design is basically translating or transforming your requirements into design that you can use and take forward. So what happens is you will take all your functional and non-functional requirements and put them into a technical specification. Similarly, you will develop detailed design documents including data flows, entity diagrams, data models, and many others, right? You also need to ensure that your design aligns with the requirements and the overall project goals. What are the risks and how do you mitigate them? Identifying potential design-related risk is something which is very important during this design phase. So you haven't implemented, so you don't know the exact challenge, but at a design level, based on the experience of the folks involved, it may make sense to actually identify those risks. You have to assess the impact and the likelihood of a risk. Just like we did in the planning and the requirement phase, the risk has to be weighted. You need to understand what are the complications and what are the impacts of that risk. Then once you know the impact, you also develop a mitigation strategy to address and identify that risk correctly. What are the best practices in design phase? Well, you need to follow design principles such as modularity, scalability, and maintainability. Whenever you design a system, you need to make sure that it is robust enough that it can scale and can be maintained for a long term. Because you're not just creating something for a short run, right? You have a vision in mind. So make sure that when you design, your design encapsulates on what all you need to do for at least a longer period of time. Similarly, you need to use design patterns to solve the common problems. you need to also ensure design documents are clear, detailed, and easily understandable. Let's recap on what all we have covered. So we talked about the design phase, the key activities that are involved, roles and responsibilities. We also understood how do you transform requirements into design. We also talked about risk analysis and mitigation, and finally the best practices in design phase. Let us look at some of the common questions that folks have. The biggest question, as always, is how do you handle changes in requirements during the design phase? Well, you've crossed your planning, you've crossed your requirement analysis, and now you're in design and something changes in your requirements. At this point, you need to make sure that you continue to work on your scope with minimal adjustments that is possible. And if there is a bigger adjustment that you need to make, you take it through a change process. There needs to be a change management process for any SDLC. What are the different design tools that you could use? Well, the most common is UML for your diagrams. There are design softwares like Microsoft Visio. You could also use Canva. There is something called as Miro that I have used personally, and it's very good and effective. You could also use ER Studio. Again, there are many tools available online for doing designs. You can just Google it, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of ads that will be popping up for you. So you should be fine. And lastly, a note for me is design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. It was said by Steve Jobs, and you can see that in any of the Apple products. It is all about design. It is all about the implementation, the execution. The devices that they have created is so smooth because they have a very thorough designing process. Now, if you're looking for more in-depth guidance, consider joining the upcoming Scrum course, the link for which is in the description below. And it is designed to take you from understanding the basics of SDLC and towards mastering Scrum, and also applying for a certification to become a Scrum Master. For more tips and resources like these, visit Teaching Agile, where I have curated a lot of content around software development and also project management. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to address them. Please remember to like and share, and also subscribe to the channel. It will really make YouTube happy. That's all for today. See you in the next one.